The game I'm going to be looking at in this video is called Alchemists Alcove. It's by someone called Fartfish, and I assume that is not their real name. It's up on itch.io already. You can play it now, and it's a really interesting little game. It's a traditional sort of grid-based roguelike, and it's all about kind of picking up items and combining them to make one-shot spells. And overall, my impression of this game is pretty positive, so I'm just going to play it a little bit, show you it, talk about some of the things I think it does really well, and then I have a little bit of feedback for the developer about the interface and the layout of the interface, which I'm going to put at the end. So if you watch this channel because you're making games or you're thinking about starting to make games, there may be some kind of general tips or principles about interface that you might find useful towards the end of this video. Let's take a look and see what it's all about. If you're familiar with this genre, there's not going to be loads here that's really unusual. You click to move a tile, nothing moves unless you move. It's all old school roguelike stuff. You click items, and then you can craft by combining them, and you get new items. I think I'm going to have a few things to say about this interface as we go along. I know that roguelikes are very interface-driven games, and players of roguelikes are going to be quite tolerant of a lot of sort of things that I might find issue with, but there's some stuff here like when I hover over this item in the inventory, and my eye is over there where my mouse cursor is, and then the information about that item comes up in the top right, so I need to look over there. Right? They feel very divorced from each other, and I don't think that's great. I think there's maybe a better way of arranging that. Then it's asking me to drop my dagger, so it's teaching me how to drop things. You can get more information on what's in a tile by holding shift. Here's slime, resist poison, really weak to burning, so I can zap him with that. And then I get the choice of these three modes, which are basically related to how the recipe system works, of how you combine items. So enlightened means that you can intuit new recipes. Blind means you don't get this glow on new recipes, and true blind means you just, I'm not sure. I think this is one of those decisions that it doesn't make sense to give to players until they really know what it means. Pick whatever one is easiest and make players play with that first, and then give them the decision to change later on. That's generally what I would advise with anything like this, where you have modes which can change the difficulty, because otherwise your hardcore gamers will pick the hardcore mode and then think that they don't like your game because actually they were just vainglorious and chose the wrong mode. You awaken in a cold, damp cave, your mind swirling, your memories scattered. You attempt to reach within yourself. The Alcove response. You know, the Alcove from Alchemists Alcove, that's actually where we are in this game. It's nearly empty, but for a dagger, a loose flint, and a compass pointing north. Beasts around you watch with idle curiosity, but they are so hungry, and they have begun to approach. So you're going north, and you've got to defend yourself from beasts. I love this drone. So atmospheric. Like having a game where it's so minimalistic, there's so much black, and there's this sort of like synth drone just all the time. It's really ominous. I can combine a frog leg with a rock to make a rock shot, and it says you can't believe that actually worked as the item description. And you'll notice there are kind of tooltips on the inventory, so I can kind of press 3 and use my dagger, or I can press Q and use the stick. I don't know what the stick does actually. I think I'd really like to be able to hold the mouse down and just have the character like take multiple turns to get over there. Like if I hold the mouse for more than half a second, it just starts going dee 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 dee. That's all of that clicking. Like hardcore fans of old school roguelikes are going to be more tolerant of this stuff than I am. I've only got so many clicks in this finger during my time on this mortal coil. I get a coin, I get some meat. I can combine meat with toadstools to make some sort of poison thing. It makes a cone of poison damage. So if you think of what's going on here, it's like we have all of these spells we can do that have a different sort of impact. So the soap bubbles summons a bubble shield that creates like a little wall, I think. I almost don't want to play too much of this game on camera, because if you like the look of it, it's going to be spoiled by having too many of the recipes revealed. I combined that copper coin with my knife, and I got some copper shavings and a zinc plate. I'm not going to show loads of that, because it's just part of the enjoyment of the game to kind of find and unlock these things. But I did definitely feel that as I was doing that, I was having really nice aha moments, and there are just enough features in the game to help you track and memorize some of that stuff, but some of it is really down to you experimenting and using your basic understanding of how food works. Look at this, snack time. The meat does change the graphics slightly when it's salted, but you have to salt it twice to actually get the jerky you can eat. And just a quick plug for our Discord. If you're already part of our Discord community, you will have seen this already, but I've set up an Indies Under the Knife section so that people can see the reviews that are coming up. I'm currently trying to do them every Thursday, and people in the Discord can see the games that I'm playing ahead of time and jump in and play them early. So each of the games that I review on this series has its own thread in there, and that means that people can kind of go and look at the game and give feedback if it's a publicly available game. And that's just kind of one of the benefits of being on the Discord. It's currently quite a small community. It's made up of developers whose games I've featured and people that support the channel on Patreon and through YouTube memberships. Thanks for all your support. Let's make better games and also do alchemy, I guess. Back to the game. No, I died. One thing I would like to see here is just a little bit more ceremony when you die. A little musical motif, just something. I had a moment there where I just didn't even realize, because I'm looking at everything apart from my player sprite, right? And my player sprite is the only thing that lets me know that I've died, because it turns into that little breath item. It's a roguelike. We're supposed to just try again straight away, but it would be nice to have a slight interruption there just to make it feel like it has some sort of emotional importance, because at the moment it's unannounced, you know, you just die and the music carries on droning and the game stops. And I think there are a number of things you could do there to make it feel like something important has happened. You could grayscale the whole game window, that, I don't know, change the music slightly, muffle something, I don't know, but that it needs something when you die, I think. So I just want to try and take a look at this interface and see how I would jig it around to make it make more sense from my perspective. I've got all the pieces here. I've sort of screen grabbed them and chopped them out, and let's just kind of shuffle them around a little bit. This inventory is good, right? In the sense that we've got the hotkeys, they map onto the keyboard. I did tend to find that I was only really using the 3 for the dagger, and I think I'd have to play a lot longer and build up familiarity to get to the point where I'm using all of the others. But I think the key mappings on this make a lot of sense, and I think it being a 4x4 grid makes a lot of sense, because you need to click these items and combine them with each other, and if it was like a long line in either direction, that would be more tedious. So I think this generally makes sense. But whereas the game has it up in the top left, I would bring it down to the bottom somewhere, and that is because we have a bit of a convention in game interfaces, and particularly like clicking based games. If you think about like RTS games and MOBAs, where the heads up display is the top of the screen, right? So the top of the screen is used for passive information that the player needs to look at and know, but not necessarily click on. If you think of an RTS or a city builder game, all of your resources and stuff are up there, but the stuff that you're regularly clicking on isn't. And some of this is just, that's what people are used to in games, so that's what they expect. And some of it is based on metaphors that come from the real world. So if you think of interacting with a computer game being like driving a car, the stuff that you're interacting with is close to you, and then the stuff you need to look at is kind of above and away. So I would move the inventory down to the bottom somewhere. It feels closer to me as a player, and it's the thing that I'm clicking on more frequently throughout the game. Having it up at the top feels a bit unusual, because players are just used to the more interactive part of the game being sort of down at the bottom of the screen, which feels closer to them. The notebook is more passive information. You do need to use it, but you don't necessarily need to click on it a bunch. So I put that above the inventory. And then we've got the information on your sort of currently selected object. And I've copied 2 of these here because I feel like the player character is its own thing. We can still leave this up here, this kind of info panel for the thing you've currently got selected, but one of the things that I noticed when I was playing the game is that I really want there to be a constant readout of my HP, because when I walk into a room I can't judge the situation of how risky should I be, because I need to like click on my character to make this info panel appear over here in order to know how much health I have. So I think this information about the player character, or at least the health portion, needs to be something that is sort of always present. I do love that you can just sort of nip into a room, see what's there, and then just immediately nope back out of it. It makes it feel like all of your failures are your own, you know? Every time you go into a room and you choose to engage, it feels like you genuinely chose to. So when you lose, it feels fair because you decided to go in there. It was all you. I think that's a really nice touch. I can put pixie dust on my shoes and I get a blink spell. Amazing.